Hi there. I've been wanting to get a smaller palette. Instead of buying one, I'm going to convert this little holder for a gift card that I got to an art supply store. It's very lightweight, and I also have these so-called half pans that were sent to me by mistake. They're not actual half pans. If you see beside these ones, which are half pans, they're very, very shallow, and they're about the same footprint size, but they're very shallow. So this is perfect because it will mean that this is truly lightweight, and I can cram in a lot of color into this small space, because you really don't need that much, and you can just top it up as you go along. So this I could pop into my purse and take with me with a little small sketchbook, and I can sketch just about anywhere. I actually nearly used it at the doctor's office the other day. So I'm going to turn the top part of the palette into a little mixing area, and I'm going to use white acrylic and matte medium. I think the matte will help with the mixing area and maybe with the adhesion to the tin. So let me just get a palette to mix on, and it's so hard to find one that's clean when you want it. So just take this little tiny area, and there's a lot of pressure in that tube, probably after the move. And I don't use acrylic very much, as you'll see in my other videos. I use mostly watercolor. Now this is a matte medium, and I can't remember why I bought it, but it is brand new, as you can see. And really, I know I had it in mind for something, but I can't remember what. Maybe for this. No, this was a lightning bolt moment in thinking, oh, instead of buying one of those fancy lightweight small palettes, I'll make my own, and I'll reuse and recycle. So just mixing it up, because white paint's a little claggy's a word. And I'm just doing around the sides, which I will come to regret later. It's going to make it very difficult to open and close the lid, but I'll just have to peel that back. Now these are magnetic strips I'm going to put on the back of the so-called half pans. They're from the dollar store. They come in strips, and then you just cut them down with a pair of crappy scissors, and so don't ruin your good scissors. And I'll just speed through this. Obviously not in real life I'm this fast. And this is my box O paint, all watercolor. And before you think this is a crazy amount, a lot of these I've had for quite some time, and others I've been adding to over the last few years, as I got back into watercolor some more. I had a ton of Winsor Newton paint when I first started out. When I was doing classes, that's what was recommended to me, and I've really loved discovering different brands and how their properties work better for some colors or some applications. I find the core a little bit aggressive, if I can put that. They tend to be a bit of a bully with other colors and spread into them and push the other color away. And Daniel Smith, of course, great, but expensive. And there's a really old tube of Winsor Newton. And so I'm just looking for the perfect warm and cool reds, warm and cool yellows, warm and cool blues, so the primaries. And then I always like to have grays around, and obviously some earth tones. And I love having buff titanium because it mixes so well, and Payne's gray is another must-have. So it's just trying to, as I realize I don't have ultramarine blue, which is a kind of staple. I don't have it because in a tube. I have it in half pans in various brands, but I don't have it in a tube. So I'm gonna have to try to find the equivalent amongst these. I don't want to go out and buy a tube just for this. So, and at some point in my mind, I thought there were more half pans to fill. I don't know how I counted so wrong, but I was getting really excited that I would have all these colors in this palette, and then realized no. So you'll see this whole pile will be really whittled down once we go through. So I was getting pretty excited about all the greens and all the grays that I could have. Two of my favorite colors. And those Da Vinci paints I love as well. I want to incorporate as many as those as possible. I got some of the colors don't come in the smaller tubes, so I had to get the bigger tubes, and I'm just not going to get through it really. So I want to be able to put them in another palette that I'm going to use a lot. So I have pretty much the yellows sorted out. The reds, I'm trying to decide what will be the cool one and what will be the warm red. And I think my very old Winsor Newton will be the winner of the day. Now the blue, as I said, I don't have ultramarine, which would be the natural choice, so I'm gonna have to figure out what blues that I want. One verging more to the gray, or more to the green, and one being kind of more neutral. Now this is the hard decision, is what greens to put in. I love them all. I would have them all if I had space, which I don't. And here's the earth tones. Definitely have to have an ochre, and that would be the Da Vinci yellow ochre. And just flipping through the binder to make sure that it's the right color. So it's between the Sennelier and I think the Da Vinci for the umber, and I went with the Sennelier raw umber. And now going to the grays, that will have to go. There's just no room. And I think just a kind of all over black. So that'll be the Da Vinci matte lamp black. I don't want to really use, I love the Daniel Smith one, but it's very granulating, and I kind of just want one that's pretty neutral. Now, what Payne's gray can I have? And it really came down to the one that has not too much blue and not too little blue. So Van Gogh won in that category. Just looking at things like light fastness. Now these are going to be in a sketchbook, so I'm not too worried about them when it comes to light fastness. Now we fill the pans, starting with Daniel Smith's nickel titanate. Get a good dollop in there. And moving on to the Daniel Smith Naples Yellow. I kind of wish I had put just a warm yellow, but I don't think I had any. I think that's why I came down to the Naples Yellow, which is nice for doing skin tones, so I don't mind about that. And there they all are. And I'm just using those sticks that you get from Starbucks. They work a treat for spreading paint. And now to swatch. This is gorgeous red. I really do like this Daniel Smith red. And that's the Alizarin Crimson from Winsor Newton. And here I realize I think I have the wrong blues. I've put them the wrong way around. Schmincke Forest Green is it's one of their special granulating series, as is the Forest Brown. I love Da Vinci's Denise's green is such a great kind of sap green. And then the Joyce's Mother's green is a beautiful mixing green. And the final one is for a little bit darker, bluer tone is the Daniel Smith Rare Green Earth and Da Vinci's Yellow Ochre right beside it. Here's the Sennelier Raw Umber. So it's a kind of orangey raw umber. And this was Da Vinci's Raw Sienna, which you'll see later has been changed. And I first went with Da Vinci's Neutral Tint, which I felt was a little too like the black. And that is the Van Gogh Payne's Grape beside it. Now the buff titanium that I love for mixing, especially skin tones. And here is the Lamp Black from Da Vinci. So that's the palette so far, but things will change in a little bit. I've changed out the neutral tint for Winsor Newton's neutral tint because it has a slightly purpley tone, and that's what I wanted, and it's more importantly not almost exactly like the Lamp Black. And then I didn't want the Raw Sienna because it's too close to the ochre, so I went with Da Vinci's quinacridone burnt orange. And that's a beautiful color, especially I do a lot of house and architecture sketches, so it's perfect for a brick color. So now for the mixing palette. I also have a little bit of a change here. I did paint the mixing palette in the lid, but I can also use these 2 sheets of watercolor mixing palette paper that came in a subscription box with this pad. And I've cut them down to size to fit in there, and I keep a couple clipped on the back of my sketchbook to replace them when they get too full. But they work a treat, and again, it's lightweight, so I'm not carrying anything really that heavy with me. And I tend to carry a little pouch that if you saw my video of going to your articulations and above ground, I got this beautiful little Japanese bag that had paint in it, and I use that for water brushes and pens. And this is my little sketchbook, really nice size. It's about 5.5 by 3.5, and it's not watercolor paper, so I don't tend to use too much water, but these are just little sketches from around my neighborhood where I've just moved. And that's Stillman and Burn. And you can see I've already been using them. The nickel titanate yellow is a little dirty, but it works really well. And I think I have a good mix of colors. I've been using it quite a bit, and I'm almost filled that sketchbook, so it's really great. I've been doing a lot of sketching, and it's just a really good size. Like, it's the perfect size. If you can find a tin like that, well, you'd have to have those half pans by mistake, but it just works a treat. So thanks very much, and that's about it. Like and subscribe for more like this. Thank you.